Today you'll learn why the wet palette is the most important tool to a painter's arsenal and how to make one at home if you're on a budget. Welcome to my exclusive series where I'll be trying to convert as many of you as possible into the hobby by offering tips and advice to beginners. To put it simply, a wet palette does the exact same thing to your paints as a man does to his wife when he cooks her a good meal. It keeps her wet for longer. The wet palette helps you maintain the humidity of your paints, thus increasing their usability. Instead of a plastic or metal palette on which your paints dry in the matter of minutes, the wet palette can drastically increase the longevity of your paints. It consists of a sponge that soaks up water and a thin sheet of paper which doesn't get wet but lets enough moisture through to keep your paints wet. On it, you can mix paints, make washes, glazes and whatnot. What you see me use here is a palette which stayed overnight. You can see some of the paints still remain usable, all I need is some water to reactivate them. Then all you need to do is close the lid. This will create condensation inside the palette and naturally keeps the paints moist for hours. But it's time to make your own. You don't want to spend tons of money on tools, I get it. So for this you're going to need a piece of Tupperware, a piece of paper towel. Don't buy toilet paper, you need good, thick, high absorbent paper towel as this will serve as our sponge. And finally a piece of baking paper. We will measure the paper towel in the container. If it doesn't fit, we'll cut it to make it fit. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I try and cut the corners as well to match the Tupperware. Once done, we will pour some water into it. The water should be just enough to ever so slightly show on top of the paper. Don't overdo it since it will flood the Tupperware and get on your palette. Then you want to remove any bumps, creaks, etc. as much as possible. And then we do the exact same thing with the baking paper. We cut it to fit. We place on top of the paper towel and it's done. That's your wet palette complete. If the paper curls like this towards the edges, don't worry, just press it gently against the sponge or the paper. And now you can start mixing your own paint on the brand new homemade wet palette. Once you run out of space, simply toss away the paper and cut out a new piece and put it back down. Don't forget to occasionally replace the paper towel too. This palette should function almost identically to a store-bought one. When done, just close the lid and put aside until the next paint sesh. Look, I also made one from plant pot base. So you know what tools you need, you know how to prime and you learn about the wet palette, but do you know the difference between sable hair and synthetic hair brushes? Stay until the next episode. Don't forget that I also have a Patreon where I offer in-depth PDF and video tutorials. Check it out. Now go enjoy your wet palette.